I would like to call the Nashua Board of Education to order. It is October 2nd, 2018, and we are in the Nashua High School North Boardroom. It is 6:32. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Mosher?
I'm here.
Mrs. Oden?
Here.
Mr. Kaufman?
Here.
Ms. Raymond?
Here.
Ms. Timmons?
Here.
Ms. Hohensie?
Here.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Here.
Mr. Garino is here. Ms. Porter?
Here.
We have a quorum. Mr. Mosher is joining us by telephone. Are you by yourself, Mr. Mosher?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. First item, I'd like to suspend the rules and use the same rules that we used at the last Board of Education meeting. Each member can speak twice to a motion or an item on the agenda. The first time they speak, they will have 2 minutes. The second time, 1 minute, and there will be no third time. Also, members are asked to wait until they are recognized to speak. So if we could have a motion or second for that.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call?
I would like to speak.
Yes, okay, Ms. Hohensie.
I just want to object. I think we're throttling down discussion. I don't think it's a long agenda. You had an excuse last time when you introduced it, trying to get through a heavy agenda. Now it's just pro forma. I think this is just a matter of censoring board members, so I just want to be on the record for objecting. Thank you.
And I would like to remind everybody that we do have a non-public after this that could be quite lengthy, so that's the vote we have. Could the clerk please call the,
Okay.
repeat the motion if you can?
The motion is to change the rules to allow each person 2 times to speak on a motion, and also a time limit of, is it
Two minutes.
Per time?
First time and 1 minute the second.
1 minute second time. On the motion, Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Mrs. Oden?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
No.
Ms. Raymond?
This is different than last time.
No.
It should be suspend the rules, but
It's the same?
Same.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie?
No.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yeah.
Mr. Garino votes yes. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
We have 2 noes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses. The motion carries.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is revised membership of the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. And Ms. Porter, would you like to speak to that?
Okay, so we have a new representative from BAE Systems, that's highlighted in blue, and the yellow highlighted members are 3 new teachers added, 1 from elementary, 1 from middle, and 1 from high school. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the changes presented at the October 2nd Board of Ed meeting.
So moved. Okay. Would you like to speak to that at all?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, yeah.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, were these people?
She made the motion. I was asking her if she wanted to speak to it. Would anybody else like to speak to it? Ms. Van Twyver?
Why were these 3 people added? Were they just late comers, or?
As we're going through the process, we were getting a lot of feedback that people wanted a teacher from each level. So even though we had Diane Vino, who is a teacher, and Adam Marcoux, and there was somebody else, and we have the principal from each level, due to feedback, and we were receptive to that, so we invited these. Dr. Mosley put out an email asking for people to volunteer. We got 1 teacher volunteered from elementary, 1 from middle school. There were, I think, 4 from high school, so we put them in a hat and pulled a name, and that's how we got them.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. This week, the board received an email from a parent who kind of volunteered his services to the board, that he wanted to be on the Board of Ed. I'm sorry that I didn't write his name down, but I would like to nominate that parent to be on the board on the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. I think it would add a community voice, and I think it would help with some diversity on the board. Thank you.
What's first?
We don't have a second.
No,
Second.
I want to speak on it as well.
Oh,
I will second it.
oh, you second it. Ms. Johansson seconded it. Okay.
Can I speak on it?
Yes, you may.
I did call that particular person. His name is Tony, and I spoke to him at length, and he's not going to be around to be on any board because he's going to Vietnam. And right now, he just wants to know the procedures on how the board would run. And I have a meeting with him next week, and then he's going to Vietnam. He wouldn't be a viable candidate for that particular program.
Thank you, Ms. Timmons. Ms. Raymond, did you have something?
Yes, I was simply going to give the name in case we want that for the minutes. And his name is Anthony. Last name is, I'm going to butcher it, Sanichara, I think, Sanichara. And my only comment was that before we unilaterally put someone on a committee, we should probably have a further discussion with them. But I'm certainly not opposed to the idea.
Ms. Porter?
We already have 3 parents on, and the parents are representative of all 3 levels. And we're trying to keep the committee to a manageable size. We did meet one time, and it worked out well. And so I think that we've got a well-balanced committee now, and we just had a focus group last night with elementary school parents, and there's a focus group coming up for middle school and high school, and we also have the survey that's going to be going out to everyone. So I think that I think we're good with this list.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Johansson?
Could you point out which one of the parents? I see 2 parents from elementary, but I don't see all 3 levels.
Lori Hebert has a student at South. She has, she's a parent of a student at
Okay.
Fairgrounds Elementary, Fairgrounds
Okay,
Middle,
thank you.
and South.
And then the other 2 are elementary?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kaufman?
I'd like to withdraw my motion, if I may.
I'll withdraw the second.
Okay. Ms. Van Twyver?
Maybe this committee could just invite him to come and attend one of the meetings so that he could understand a little bit about what's going on. He sounded very much to me that he was very interested in helping out with the school district, so maybe somebody could, recommend to him that he attend one of the meetings that would be pertinent to him.
Okay. Ms. Timmons?
I did recommend that he come to our board meetings. I told him when the board meetings will be conducted. I had a lengthy conversation with him this morning, and again, we're going to meet to discuss further ways to get involved in the community as well as at the Board of Education, and he's very open to that. He's a very nice guy, and I did recommend that he come to these board meetings.
Board meetings?
The board meetings and read everything about the board. I was going to give him information as well.
Well, how about the strategic planning meeting?
I didn't speak to him about the strategic plan at all because it wasn't on my mind.
Ms. Porter?
I will contact him and invite him.
But like I said, he is going to be in Vietnam most of the month, and I'll give you those dates as well. So I don't think he'll be a good candidate because he's not around a lot. He's in aviation. He flies all over the place.
Was that a motion that we have to vote on?
I withdrew.
We have the original motion to vote on.
Are you ready for the vote, Madam President?
Could you reread the motion, please?
The motion is to accept the changes to the Strategic Plan Steering Committee as presented by Ms. Porter in the packet.
Okay.
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0.
Okay. And the second item on the agenda is New Hampshire Department of Education General Assurances, and that I believe everybody received a document to sign, that you had received it and read it. So, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Oden. I do have a question, though, I've read it over a couple of times, and my question has to do with the retention period. There's a section toward the beginning, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the seventh bullet down on page 1, where it says the recipient will submit such reports to the New Hampshire DOE, U.S. government agencies. They'll maintain, and I'm just paraphrasing, the recipient will maintain such fiscal and programmatic records, including those required under federal law, and will provide access to those records. And then later on in the document, when they explain each one of these bullets, if you will, trying to find the correct page here. There's a section on retention. It's on the bottom of page 12. It says retention and access to records. And even after reading through this a few times, it's not clear to me what the retention period is. There's no months, years. The last thing speaks to section C, speaks to expiration of right of access, and this is like typical government speak. The rights of access in this section are not limited to the required retention period, but last as long as the records are retained. But to the best of my reading of this document, and maybe someone can find it, I don't see the retention period specified. So I think it would be helpful to understand what that is, because we need to put process in place. I remember there's a state law in New Hampshire for retention of special ed records that was 65 years that the legislature has reduced to, I think it was 10 or 15 years. But I don't know from reading this document, I don't know what the retention period is. Does anybody know?
No, I don't.
No, thank you. But this is not our document, this is a state document, so I would gather the state would have to put that in, or the federal government, because they're federal grants. So this is not a Nashua document, but I bet if you went and asked if you could read any of the grants, they certainly are available here in Nashua.
I'm asking what the retention is for the documents that we send to the state. And I would think that we should know that.
As I said, this is the federal government, it's sent by the state, and I would think if you wanted to know that, you would have to contact the state and ask them.
I can certainly, if I may, I can certainly do that. I guess if they're asking us to know what's in this document and certify that we're going to adhere to the provisions of this document, I would like to know what the retention period is.
Okay.
So I can make sure the district has process in place
Thank
to
you.
retain those records.
Thank you. Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. I don't, unfortunately, my phone doesn't allow me to access Google in the building, or pretty much any other service on my phone in the building. But it says in sentence 2.
Where are
that-
you, please?
On the same place you were, page 12, retention and access to records. The second sentence says Federal Regulation 2 CFR 200.333 addresses the retention requirements for records. So, I was going to try and Google it to see if I could get that quickly and see how many years it says, but I can't. But
you.
perhaps we should do that and then double check with Dan Donovan and make sure that we're following those rules.
Mrs. Oden, as long as they're specified, we can now find out I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay, knowing that they are specified, I missed that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is
Ms.
that
Van-
retention by the state for these records or retention by the district?
I would think it's retention by the district, but I'm not sure. I think the state probably tells them how long they have to hold them, but it might be from the federal government telling the state how long they have to keep them too. I'm not sure.
Does the superintendent know? We might ask him.
Mr. Guarino.
I believe it's the recipient, which would be us, so we maintain such fiscal and programmatic records. So the bullet that Mr. Kaufman had read says that he was worried about retention, how long we have to how long we have to hold such records, and it says the recipient, so that's us.
Ms. Van Twyver.
I don't remember where I read it, but I'm interested in knowing whether anybody that receives federal funds or manages the federal funds in this district got a copy of this document so that they understand what we've signed them on for. And maybe also Mr. Donovan, I'd like to know whether that.
I believe the people that supervise grants are all trained in that. They have a very thick book. I can remember talking to Ms. Fulton about it. There is an awful lot to learn when you take over any position that has grants.
Yeah, but this document itself, I don't know whether it's changed from previous years or if it's even, previous years this was put out. I think that they should know what's in this document so that they manage the funds properly. And I think it says somewhere in here that they need to know, but I can't remember where I read it.
Anybody else? Anybody else have questions? Okay. If people, I know there was a sheet along with the insurances in our packet last Friday. So if you could fill that sheet out, if you've gotten a copy of it and you've read that, then my understanding from Mr. Donovan is everything that needed to be addressed as far as finances that specified are covered, and we have received the information that we needed. Mr. Kaufman.
I'm afraid I have to disagree, Mrs. Oden. I did not receive any financial summaries related to what the federal grants are. If you read the declaration that Dr. Mosley had signed on July 25th, it says, "I further certify that I have informed all members of the school board of the federal funds the district will be receiving and of these general assurances terms requirements in said paraphrasing in said program." Certainly I have received, and I'm happy to certify that I've received the general assurances document, but I have not received any financial statement relative to federal funds. So I am, and I noticed that this declaration only refers to the general assurances. It doesn't refer to, there's an and in the, I believe there is. Yes, there's an and in the certification for both federal funds that the district will be receiving and the insurances. So we need to get two things. I maintain we have only received one.
In speaking to Mr. Donovan today, he said he submitted a spreadsheet with all the information that we needed on that.
To whom?
To the board.
When?
I didn't ask him when, but he said he had submitted that to the board, that all the information that this called for had been submitted to board members. Ms. O'Hensi.
Last time he was here, he said he normally puts it in the budget process, but this year he did not. Since then, I have not gotten anything in the mail, so I am sure that I didn't receive it. I'm surprised he's not here tonight if they want to get this signed and certified.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Ms. Raymond.
Thank you. So I think this signature just says that we've gotten this document. But if my recollection serves me, I asked Mr. Donovan during the last board meeting if he could send us all the missing pages from our binder so that we could have it completed. So I don't know how long that takes to put together, but he did say that he would do that.
Okay,
So maybe we just need to remind him.
okay. And I will contact him. I'll send an email when I get home tonight.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. We now need, Ms. O'Hensi.
I just want it for the record for the board to know that our federal funds are going to be withheld until this certification is done properly. Mr. Donovan said that wasn't going to be the case, and I believe that is the case.
Okay.
And I believe the district was notified, and I'm disappointed again that the board wasn't notified.
Mr. Guarino.
Could you please tell us where you learned that?
The board was not sent any information to say that the money was withheld. The certification said money would be withheld if they didn't get a proper certification. The state notified the superintendent and the Board of Education on last Tuesday, and we didn't get a copy, Tuesday, September 25th.
How do you know that? Have you seen that notification?
Yes,
Do you
I
have-
did.
Do you have a copy for us?
Yes, I did. We didn't print them for you because last time we tried to give you information, you didn't want it.
No? No.
Please, please.
So I have one copy.
Wait
I could
until-
read the letter to you if you'd like.
That would be good,
Does-
up to the chair.
It's from Tuesday, September 25th, to the district. Superintendent Mosley and Nashua Board of Education President Oden. The Nashua DOE is in receipt of the certification page of your district's general assurances, terms, and requirements for participation in federal programs, while the general assurance certification page provided to the department contains both the superintendent signature and the board chair's signature. It has been brought to our attention that all the members of the school board have not been informed of the federal funds the district will be receiving and of the general assurances terms requirements for the district's participation in said programs as required by the certifications. As such, at this time, the department considers the district's general assurances to be incomplete until the school board membership is properly informed of the contents of the general assurances. The department will not be processing any reimbursement requests related to federal grant funds. And then it tells you how to rectify it, and
Who is that from?
the program specialist of federal funds program monitor, Department of Education, Bureau of Federal Compliance, Lindsay Scribner.
Ms. Timmons.
What's the date on that letter?
September 25th, last Tuesday. So my concern all along has been this board is not being given the information that we're required to be given. This should have been in the board packet. This information shouldn't have been pulling teeth, and we still don't have the information on the federal funds to the district.
I believe Mr. Donovan would disagree with you on that point. Mr. Guarino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have already signed that I received the assurances, and I have already submitted it, because I think that if we hold off signing that piece of paper, we're just making the matter worse. We have been informed all along about federal programs. So as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Donovan and the administration do a good job telling us about these federal programs, and I think it's a mistake to hold off on these assurances, because you're just making the job of administrators harder by doing that. Okay, so this was a molehill, and I am not going to be part of the effort to make it a mountain. This is just a molehill, not a mountain. Okay, and I don't see the advantage to this district I don't understand the advantage that we're giving to this district by holding off on signing that insurances and just keep dragging it, okay? It seems to me that people want us not to get federal dollars, okay? I don't see the advantage. This is not helping the district. It's not helping public school education. So it would be great if we could all work together as a team and just help administration put this application in. The application goes in every year. There's no need to hold off. Mr. Donovan has always been forthright with any information that we need. That we have lots of information at finance and operations on funding.
Time?
And I just, I still have
30 seconds.
30 seconds. So you're not helping us. You're just making matters worse.
Okay. I think everybody has had at least 2 chances to speak to this.
I have not. I've had one.
Okay, Ms. O'Henry.
Thank you.
I comment.
Mr. Mosher has.
Okay, 1 minute.
I haven't either.
I would like to point out that I am not covering for the mistakes of this district. I was not elected to cover for falsification of documents. This board was elected to oversee the district. That is our job. I am appalled that the superintendent and the board president got a copy of this letter because I'm looking at their emails on September 25th, 1 week ago, and this board was not notified. We elected a board president to keep us informed and to represent the body, not to go off on our own, not to falsify documents because it's expedient. Now, if you don't want to oversee the district and you just want to sign on the dotted line,
I object to that.
that's
I
fine.
object to that.
Sorry, you're out of order.
That's
Sorry.
I would
You are
like-
out of order. I'm sorry.
insulting the whole board.
You're out of order. I'm sorry.
I would like to do the job I was elected to do. This certification page requires me to do due diligence, to get information and be fully informed. I'm not just going to sign on the dotted line so the money comes faster under false pretenses. That's not why I was elected.
Thank you. Mr. Mosher.
Yes, I listening to Mr. Guarino, and I agree with him. I think that we are making a mountain out of a molehill, and I think that Mrs. Hornsey is delving into places where she does not belong. And she should contact and be aware of what's going on by spending more time talking with the CEO and seeing what he says and what is really going on, rather than pulling out some obscure piece of paper and waving it in our faces and telling us what a bad job we're doing and how bad our president is, which I object to very strongly.
Thank you. Ms. Van Twyver, did you want to speak?
Well, I kind of object to what was said about Mr. Donovan giving us all the information. I've been on the board 7 years, and I couldn't tell you how many different fundings we get from the federal government. That has never been I think 1 year we had it in the board budget, but I don't believe that anybody here on this board can tell you what monies, what funds come in and who manages them and whether we get audited on them. If you can, please speak up because I'd like to hear it. I've never heard a lot of it. So
Neither have I.
think this, yeah, right. You surprised me, Mr. Mosher. I think that this is just not, you might think it is a molehill, but I think it's rather important that the board has been hidden from a lot of things that go on. And maybe this was just an oversight, but I think it was a big oversight that you just don't sign papers that are talking about federal funds, so that we all know that money's tight and the proper procedure ought to be done. So I disagree with you, Mr. Guarino. I think it's an important one. I'll sign the paper, but I think that we need to have more information on these federal funds, how much they are, who's managing them, and how they get spent out. Doesn't have to be a thesis, you know, it could be pretty even, you know, but I couldn't tell you. And everybody, you know, our budget is what, 106,000,
107 million.
107 million now? We don't know how much funding we get from the federal government. I think that our budget is more like 200 with all the federal money and all the freebies and the donations that we get and the volunteers we get. I couldn't tell you what our total budget to run this district is, but that's all I have to say.
Mr. Guarino, 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no objection with Mr. Donovan bringing that information that you require, Ms. Van Twyver. But remember, this is something that the state has added on. These applications go in every year, and this is something new that they added on. And I object to the characterization of our president as falsifying things, and I object to the idea that people are hiding things from us. Our job on the Board of Education is not to indict people. That's not what our job is, okay? Yes, our job is to oversee. And I also object to people accusing the rest of the board of not overseeing the district. Okay, we're there, we see what goes on too, okay? And I object to people on this board who think because that I am too new to this board to understand the affairs or to make informed decisions. Okay, and we've been putting up with that since the beginning, all right? But I am not going to indict, my job is not to indict every staff member, every teacher who has a slight misstep. What kind of district do we want? What do we want to do to
Mrs.
morale
Oden.
in this district? Okay?
5 seconds.
So I have no objection for Mr. Donovan coming here, giving you the information you want. I have no objection to that at all.
Thank you. Can I just say, when we have our budget presented to us, we have Bob Choper, he talks about his grant, which I believe is Title III. We have the Title I, Cynthia Prue came and spoke to us about her budget. So we do get a lot of information about the budgets. We can ask them any questions we want. So we are educated, I think, and I truly believe, I know the state comes down and audits their budgets. I think it said any district that receives over $750,000 in here, they come in and audit. So, you know, those people, we haven't heard of any problems with the state auditing them. I did receive that email along with Dr. Mosley, and it was not sent to the Board of Ed, and I saw no reason to forward it because we were going to make sure everybody had the 14-page assurances and fill out the documents. So I don't apologize for that. So have you spoken twice already, Ms. Van Twyver?
I don't think I've spoken
Ms. Van
twice.
Twyver.
Oh, sorry.
I would like to see one sheet of paper that shows each one of the funding sources and how much it is. Giving me piece by piece in presentation does not help me remember a lot. I'd like to see one piece of paper that shows it all. You don't ever get the whole picture from this district. Believe me, you don't. And so there's no way that you know when things come and when things go. That has always been a problem ever since I've been on the board, so.
Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. I just want to point out that the original request of the district was made by the commissioner on May 30th with a response date for June 30th. The district responded late July 25th. So here we are Oh, we're into October now. So knowing that this financial information was information about the funds was part of the initial request, and here we are 3 months later, leads me to have concerns. I will not be signing this particular certification because I have not received the financial funds. Just want to be clear about that. Thank you.
I would remind anybody that's been on the board for a while, we had quite a discussion in one of our budget sessions about Title I and Title II budgets, how they are 2 years. Ms. Krebs spent quite a bit of time. It was very confusing to follow it and to understand where the money is and how it is spread over the 2 years. And there is another budget, I believe the Title II budget also is over 2 years. So we have had a lot of information about it, but they are very complicated to follow. So, but I'm sure Mr. Donovan can put something together on one sheet for you, or for all of us.
Mrs. Oden, I'm sorry, but if I may, just 10 seconds.
Okay.
Ms. Krebs left the district 2 years ago, so our new members don't have the advantage of having been there for that, just to point that out.
Okay.
And it was Sherry Fulton, wasn't it?
For Title I, yeah.
Looking for a motion to go into non-public.
So move.
Okay, under RSA 91A32C. Matters which, if discussed in public, likely would affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the Board of Education, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Second.
Roll call?
On the motion to go into non-public, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Excuse me, yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
Yes?
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Ms. Carino votes yes. Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0. We are in non-public at 7:09 PM.